On this week's show, walking pace target classes are here, and Peloton closed more showrooms this month.
Plus, Jennifer Jacobs and Lauder take on Peloton. Hyatt brings Peloton to Latin and Central America, and much, much more.
Welcome to Pelo Buddy TV, a show for the Peloton community by the Peloton community. Here are your hosts, Amanda Siegel and Chris Lewis.
Welcome to episode 227 of Pelo Buddy TV, a show for the community by the community. I'm Chris Lewis, and I'm joined this week by a special guest co-host, Holly Cabler. Holly, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Thanks for joining us this week.
Of course.
Now, for those who don't know you, your leader name on Peloton is?
Krabby Cakes.
And you are one of the admins of Pelo Fam and several other groups. Is that correct?
Yes, I admin the Casey Pillow Pack out of Kansas City and Cliff's group. So I do that one and Pelo Fam. So
Great.
I do three. Yeah.
Well, glad you could join us this week and help share the news.
Of course. This one's a good one. I'm excited to hear all the stuff.
It is. Well, we got a, pretty packed week this week, so we'll jump right into it. But before we start, we always like to remind you that we're on all social media platforms. You can just search for Pelo Buddy, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those. We're on all traditional podcast platforms. Just search for Pelo Buddy TV. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of those. And we're also available as a video on YouTube. Just search for Pelo Buddy and you'll find the latest episodes there. And with that, let's get on with the news.
Oh, let's get into it. This is a good one.
First, let's do a rundown of the latest Pelo news.
And this week, our top story is Jennifer Jacobs and Ladder. So a couple days ago, Jennifer Jacobs, who is a former Peloton instructor, she had joined the company back in 2015 and then left around 2019. But she had made a post on social media teasing that she was coming back to, quote unquote, the world's best fitness brand.
Which I know which one that would be. My choice.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who would think that's Peloton. And
I mean, I'm biased.
Yep. And in the video that she posted, in the background was what appeared to be a Peloton bike, seeming to imply that she would be back at Peloton. However, we made a post about that, and then shortly after we did, we received a statement from Peloton saying, in no uncertain terms, that Jennifer Jacobs was not coming back to Peloton, but they wished her well in whatever was best. Less than 24 hours later, Jennifer Jacobs made a new video sharing that she was joining the company Ladder. And Jennifer Jacobs had previously been a coach at Ladder after she left Peloton. She had gone to some other companies, but she is going back to Ladder. Since she made that post, there's been 2 or 3 other posts, and Jennifer Jacobs and Ladder have started a new marketing campaign trying to get Peloton members to join Ladder. They've created a new Ditch the Bike website, and they are offering Peloton members 3 free months if they join Ladder. They have made they took some advertising trucks and parked them outside Peloton Studios, New York. And Jennifer Jacobs went there and recorded a video, so that's all over social media of the Ladder, trucks outside of Peloton. And then there's a video of Jennifer Jacobs and a fake Peloton instructor kind of doing a parody post. This is not the first time that Ladder is kind of...
not the first time.
Back in last year, when Peloton released the Strength Plus app, Ladder accused Peloton as being, quote unquote, inspired by them. And they made a couple fake videos called Flattered, which were kind of side by side. And they were kind of Mac versus PC style videos that kind of had the same fake Peloton instructor. So they're bringing that campaign back to, try to get Peloton members to join because Jennifer Jacobs is now with Ladder.
Yeah. I mean, I've read a lot of the comments and listened to, and I've just seen the banter back and forth, and it is a good marketing campaign. You can't deny that. But I feel like you don't necessarily. I like Peloton's response. We wish you well. I feel like that was very classy on their part, and when you're dealing, like you said, a lot of tech companies have had marketing campaigns very similar to this, where when you're dealing with a community that's so as strong as I think ours is, it's, you have to punch up
Yeah.
And Peloton didn't punch down. And so, I feel like that's very respectful on their way. We do have a very strong community, and they had, you know, they used our Peloton bike, obviously, in their commercials. So it shows how strong we really are.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of the comments I've seen, this has clearly generated a lot of response from the Peloton community. A lot has been, well, I guess it kind of worked because I had never heard of Ladder before this, so now I've heard of them. But on the flip side, they're saying, is this Jennifer Jacobs burning a bridge? And that's, a question that we may never know. But, Jennifer Jacobs actually talked about this in her social media a little bit. She was saying that what she was doing was not shade, but strategy. And I'll just read a quick quote of what she said. She said, next chapter is about strength, clarity, creativity, and yeah, we're keeping it fun too. Sometimes bold moves and a little playful energy are exactly what it takes to cut through the noise. It's not shade, it's strategy. Just smart brand play to spark real conversation. Thanks to everyone who's been part of the ride so far. We're just getting started. So yeah, just a quick update. Former instructor Jennifer Jacobs is now with Ladder, and this might be a one-off of post, kind of inspired by Peloton, but we'll see if anything else happens down the road.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I know she had some very big diehard fans out there. I mean, they created a Instagram site for her. They were very excited for her to come back, and
Yep.
that didn't happen. And I guess we'll see how that pans out for her. It seems to be like she is very excited about that new opportunity. So we'll see how that goes for her.
Yep.
Well, I was very excited to hear about walking pace targets while I was out at the Peloton studios this past week. They were all very much the rage because people have been waiting for a very long time for those to roll out. So we do have them out on the Tread and Tread Plus, and they're coming out. There is a intro to walking pace targets that came out by Susie. If you take that on your Tread and your Tread Plus, you'll be greeted by the screen, which was very similar to when we had running pace targets, where you will go through each of the 5, not 7 as in running, where you'll get on the tread and they'll give you instructions on your feeling on each of the individual pace targets, where you'll lock in what each one is. And
Yeah,
so when you take the class, you'll know exactly kind of where you are. You can always change that during a class.
The
or
thing that's
before.
interesting here is that on the Tread, it kind of wanted you to do that 1 mile benchmark, and it used the
Oh.
1 mile you had done in the class, or a previous class or a test to kind of set where you are.
Before the class?
Yeah, to do your initial setting of your zones. But on the walking pace targets, it doesn't really need that benchmark. When you get on, it said, go to what you think is your power walk. And then once you've kind of set that, and there's a screen where you just hit save, it then immediately goes to the screen and says, based on that, we recommend you to be at, difficulty level 5 or 6 based on that. So it's kind of, you just hop on, you start the tread, you get to a power walk. Once you've done that, it says, here's your zone. And then it jumps you into the class.
It took Susie's, and she was describing each zone like, I want you, for the power walk zone, I want your hips to be swaying, and I want your arms to be moving back and forth, and I don't want you to be able to make a full sentence. And by the time you get to max, she said she wanted you to be wishing you were running. Like, I want you to be wishing you were almost into the full jog. And there seems to be 4 classes at this point, 2 by JTR and 2 by Susie, that have these labeled, and they said you can change it during the class or before the class if you want to change your zones.
Yeah, that's the same as the running. Like if there's that little screen where you have to hit start so you can change it there, or if you decide in the middle of the class, you can just tap on the range above your speed, and it pops up a little thing where you can change in real time your difficulty level to, if you need to make it easier or harder for whatever reason for that class.
It does look like there seemed to be some rustling that Thunder also was having some pace targets.
They also this week rolled it out to Tread Bootcamp classes for the first
God
time.
God bless, because sometimes in a Thunder you need some pace targeting.
Yeah, so right now there's 2 that are available with them. There's a 30-minute from Andy Spear from earlier this week, and then Adrian's Thursday Thunder 45. And those, since they're running in the boot camp, those use your 7 effort levels of running. But I do expect down the road that if they ever, bring pace targets to some of the walking walking or hiking boot camps, those would use your walking
Yeah.
levels. And one thing to note is that your walking difficulty level and your running difficulty level can be different. So, for example, if you're a level 8 on your running, but you're, for example, a 4 on your walking, depending on whether you're a walking or running, it'll automatically know what level you're set at. So those are kind of independent, and it's safe
That's cool.
for you.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a
So
good
I
little
think
feature
it's
just so you don't have to change it back and forth all the
right,
time.
right. Well, and I think that's great that they're adding all that in. So
Yeah. But yeah, and we do expect that they will also add these to hikes down the road, but they just haven't yet. But the CEO teased that recently. And if you are not a Tread owner, these classes are available on the app. You can take them, but they just won't have the
have it on there.
dynamic zones for you. We do expect them to add that down the road, but like for running classes, it took them a while to
get it out on the
roll
app.
that out to the app. But at least now they're not locked and hidden. You can take them. You just won't have that. And then they have added the filter to find the pace target classes to walking as well. So they're, gradually starting to
Rolling everything out. It takes a while,
Yeah. Slowly
Takes a
but
while.
surely.
Right.
Well, in other news, Peloton has closed more showrooms this month. There were 5 closed most recently. This included the Los Angeles, California location, the Westfield Century City. It included the Avalon location in Alpharetta, Georgia, outside of Atlanta. It included the Westfield Old Orchard in Skokie, Illinois, outside of Chicago, and then 2 in New Jersey, the Westfield Garden State Plaza in Paramus, and then the Cherry Hill Mall in Cherry Hill. So with these closures, that means there are now only 11 retail stores left in the US, and that includes the one micro store location. We did share that recently Peloton CEO shared they're going to be opening more of those micro stores in the coming months. So, they also shared
we just have one micro store, right?
At this point that's officially open, there's only one and then 10 traditional ones, but I think there's like 3 in Texas. So I would expect some of these others that are nearby, they're just still trying to get out of some of their leases.
Yeah.
So we'll probably see more of those close, down the road. But as they do that, maybe they'll come back to some of these same cities and open a micro store kiosk in the mall, they've said that these are lower cost, but still making the same amount of revenue as some of their other stores were. So clearly they think this is a more profitable model.
Right. And then maybe they'll be able to do more kind of having instructors come out in the community more.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, if they're making the same amount of revenue, then there doesn't seem to need for any kind of rent or anything like that. So
yeah, it's, it might vary location to location, but they do definitely seem pleased with how the first one in Nashville is doing.
Come out to Kansas City, please. We haven't seen them out there for a long time, so we'd love to see somebody out in the Midwest. Well, this past week, of course, this is Britney week, which started out with Cody Rigsby challenging everyone to try to bump up his ride and make it number 1 again. So, of course, we all tried to comply and get that special badge. So he challenged all of us on June 17th to take his ride as many times as we could to get those numbers up. So we had until June 23rd to earn that special badge to take his previous ride to get that up. So many of us did. I don't know if they ever said if we did or not. Did they?
I don't think so. But
not yet.
People are still taking it. So
people are still taking it. So maybe we did, maybe we didn't. So from the collection, there was 7 other rides that were in the Britney collection up until then. So I counted 20 other rides that they are going to be currently adding into that collection. So that should make them about 28. And they're still going currently as we speak. So Cody did one.
Just to clarify, Britney Week is this past week, and it's in celebration of the 25th anniversary of Oops, I Did It Again. So after teasing the old classes, they're launching an entire whole new week of social media, a second new badge for taking one of them, and then, like Holly said, 20 plus new classes.
Yes, and there's German instructors. Benny's doing one. I'm very much looking forward to that one.
And there's a 2-for-1 and with Eric and
Jeffrey, they did
Jeffrey and
yesterday.
German. So they're going all out with the series.
Yes, they are. And they're having a challenge with it too. If you take 10 classes of is it the new ones or does it include
I
the
believe
old
it's
ones?
anything in the collection, so it can
In
be
the
the old ones
collection.
as well. But this is a challenge you do have to opt into,
Yes.
in the challenge section to make sure you're able to get it.
And if you do 10, you get a gold badge that says Britney Collection, and then 5, you get a silver, and 3, you earn a bronze Britney badge.
And just as an FYI, that challenge ends today, June 29th. So if you are interested in that, you probably want to go ahead and opt into
Take
that.
all your Britney classes today.
Yeah.
But it sounds like there's some that are happening today because I think Benny is today.
Yeah, yes, those were wrapping up through the end of the week.
Yes.
So those
and
then
on
we'll
demands.
be on to the next series after that.
Yeah, so it sounds like a really good time, and some of the costumes were so incredible.
Yeah.
Benny's looked cool, and I know that Camila's looked pretty nice too.
Mm-hmm.
So those ought to be really good ones.
Nice. Well, in other new stuff this week, Joslyn Thompson Rule has a brand new split plus walk program. This is our first split program, but it consists of 3 different 30-minute workouts. And in each of them, the first part of the workout is warm up and strength, and then you'll end with a 10-minute walk on the tread. Now, since it was released this week, this is also one of the first programs that uses walking pace targets. So all 3 classes in there do use walking pace targets for those 10 minutes of cardio. But there's a upper body pull plus walk, there's a legs plus core plus walk, and then there's an upper body push plus walk. So as always, we've got a list of those classes over on our website, and this new program is, like all new programs are going to be with the new programming structure. So there's no deadline anymore on them, and it has a bit more flexibility, but it's not available in the TV apps and the website anymore. You have to do it through the app or the hardware.
I do love that they don't put a limit on us. Don't put a limit on me. I don't know when I can get that done. Well, I am excited about this new program that's coming because I don't know about you, but in my area, pickleball is all the rage. Is pickleball all the rage with you? Okay, it's all the rage in our area too. So Olivia and Asal are going to be instructing new pickleball and tennis programs. Olivia is going to be teaching strength for tennis and pickleball, and Asal is going to be teaching strength for tennis and German. And those are going to be dropping on Monday, and I'm very excited to see. And I know a lot of people in my area are very excited to see strength with those because I know there's a lot of, and I don't know what kind of injuries people get, but people are very excited to build strength with that because it's a lot of cardio, but a lot of people want to see the strength that goes along with that. So I'm excited to see, and I personally adore Asal, so I'm very excited to see what she brings to the table with that.
Yeah, and we'll touch on those a little next week once they're out. And if you're listening to this now, be sure to go over to the Pelo Buddy website on Monday or Tuesday, and we'll, as always, have a full list of the classes and those in detail so you can see the class list and, pick and choose those classes if you want to hop around in them.
Yeah, it'll be cool.
Nice. Well, this past weekend, there was a new installment of Peloton's Broadway series, and this was a 1-class series celebrating the Tony Award-winning musical Sunset Boulevard. There was 1 class, a Sunset Boulevard Walk +1 with Robin, and they teased some special guests. Now, we're unfortunately recording this right before that class takes place, so we don't know who the special guests are. I would imagine it's someone from the class, maybe Nicole. We'll just we'll touch on it next week to see who that ended up being. But there's 1 class in that series, and it took place Saturday. It should be available on demand by the time you're listening to this. And that was this past year's Tony Award winner for Best Revival of a Musical and Best Lead Actress, Sunset Boulevard.
And you've seen that show.
I have.
So are you going to take it?
I will be, yeah.
I bet you will. I mean, I wanted to see it. I didn't get tickets for it. So, I mean, maybe I'll enjoy the Walk Plus Run before the show.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the show closes on Broadway in mid-July, so there's not much time left to see it if you haven't already.
There's not enough time unless I go today.
Right.
Oh, well. Okay, well, maybe I'll just enjoy the Walk Plus Run.
There you go.
Okay, well, this one is really, I think, really cool. So Power and Presence series. So this was a special series that was included Shayla Stonechild, who is a Lululemon ambassador and drop dead gorgeous. She is a Canadian model and a wellness advocate who joined Chelsea in 3 classes focusing on remembering, reclaiming, and reconnecting your power. So I saw her at the Lululemon 10K she did with Chelsea. She's the first Indigenous global ambassador for Lululemon, and Chelsea is the first Black American ambassador. And the two of them together did a series centered around pushing back the barriers that certain people and cultures don't belong in wellness spaces. Thus, the power in the presence of being present was the focus of this series. And to see these types of different cultures leading together in a fitness space pushes Peloton into a more welcoming environment for all beings. And it was the coolest thing. I did the meditation last night, which completely knocked me out. I did both of the yogas, and I'm not like a huge yoga person, but just the sound of their voices was like incredible. And they talked about like their family history and the people that built like their communities in these yoga classes, and it's something you shouldn't miss. Like,
Nice.
even just listening to it in the car would be a wonderful thing to listen to. They did a phenomenal job. And you and I had talked about having someone else in the yoga studio, like, and you said Little John. So this is probably the second time maybe that we had a different instructor in the yoga studio, but this is probably the first series, but it was a great series.
Nice.
I enjoyed it.
And if you haven't checked it out yet, we do have links to those classes over on our website, but there is also a collection in the collections area called Power and Presence. So to find those easily, you can go check out the Peloton collections and find those 3 classes there, which were from June 20th.
Yeah, it was a really good one.
Nice. Well, and going back a little bit, Christian Vandeveld has been teaching a series called Real Routes, and he has, I believe, around 5 of those. He teaches those probably, he's there once every couple months, and he seems to teach one or so of those each time he is there. But to make those easier to find, there is also been a Real Routes collection added to the collections area, so you can have an easier time to find those now. But in addition to that, this last time he was there, Christian taught his first FTP test and warm up. So
did you take it, Chris?
I have not yet. I've been putting off doing any sort of FTP test.
I bet.
But yeah, so if you're overdue for an FTP test and you're not delaying it like me, you do have another option now, and you can do that FTP warm up and
if you have a death wish.
I mean, it doesn't matter who the FTP test.
I mean, it doesn't, but man, I can't imagine.
Anyone, so
I can't imagine. His has got to be good.
Yeah,
I bet. Well, this week at Peloton, we've got some new things, which there's one that I'm really excited about. Okay, so we have the benchmark strengths, which are always goodies. We've got Callie, Ben, and Mavrati, Katie, and Joslyn, and those are always found under benchmark strength class collections. You can always find those, and those are always great little startups. Those to me seem like those ones that we used to have. What were they called? Every morning, they were like the little snacks.
Yep.
Those are always great, and they're always tucked in the benchmark strength class collection. This is one I'm so excited to get back. I got to get back to my house, but I'm not near my house. The scenic classes. Yes. I love the scenic. So we have a Switzerland one, and I love like pretending like I'm in another country and I ride my bike. So we've got Switzerland on the bike, tread, and row.
And there's a couple other locations as well, and those are the no instructors, just, this kind of stock footage going through those countries.
And that'll be so fun. Yeah. So I love to pretend like I'm in another country. Okay, so then we have the Flow and Let Go series with Aditi, and she's got a stack, and it's this Saturday, and starts at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. And then there's an accompanying meditation that goes with the Flow and Let It Go. So you take the flow and then you let it go. And that starts at 10:10 a.m. And then lastly, if you just really feel like you haven't had enough of yourself and you really need to have some Tabata in your life, Mr. Logan has that for us this Sunday at 10 a.m. And that sounds like So much fun.
And that's one of his just Tabatas, which is a
Yes,
signature series.
it is
So
a signature series, and it is, people love it, and it's what you should do.
yeah.
I mean, those provide you with the best calorie burn for your buck.
Yep. Nice. Well, to wrap things up for the core part of the news, Hyatt is bringing some Peloton bikes to new areas. They are expanding and bringing. I mean, Hyatt's not expanding; they already have these hotels, but they're expanding the hotels that they have the bikes at, and they are bringing them across Latin America, Central America, and the Caribbean. They're adding bikes to over 80 new hotels in these areas, including Mexico, Jamaica, Costa Rica, St. Kitts, the Bahamas, and more. They're going to have bikes in some of these, and then others they're going to have the TV set up where you can stream select classes directly on the TVs without having to stream your phone or anything. So that's taking place, and we'll see where else they, kind of bring those. But this is interesting because Peloton's not officially for sale in these markets.
No. Oh, you're
So
right.
Hyatt's bringing them to some markets that Peloton's not officially for sale yet, but Peloton has a pretty deep relationship with Hyatt. They offer bonus points for taking classes in
And
the
Allie's one of
hotels.
their
Yep.
wellness gurus.
Yep, and Hyatt's, kind of teamed up to offer some special classes in the past, so this is just,
And points.
them including more of their partnership.
Well, anytime I can get points for something.
Yep. And then one final thing this week. This past weekend was the third Lululemon Members Weekend at Peloton Studios, New York. And Holly, you were actually there for that. Is that right?
I was, and it was a really good time.
Nice. Well, real quick, we'll have you tell everyone kind of how your experience was. But for people who aren't familiar with that, that is where Lululemon kind of takes over Peloton Studios for the weekend. That was 3 days worth of classes that only Lululemon members could sign up for. Those are all available on demand for people at home, just like normal classes. But for people to actually go into the studios and take them, Lululemon kind of took over that process and, kind of ran those on their own. So do you want to talk a little bit about that, Holly?
They did. You had to be a Lululemon Essential member to get an email, and we all signed up for the classes by a link. We could sign up for experiences, which included a Lululemon party, or there were 5 meet and greets with the Lululemon ambassadors, and there were 2 outdoor runs. When we arrived, we each received a Lululemon side bag, which I have here. It's like a side body bag, and we could get them engraved with our initials by pressing, they heat pressed on our initials. And we each received a water bottle, Lululemon water bottle.
No, you only got one of those, no matter how many you signed up for?
Yes.
Okay,
I
in
believe
years past, if you had signed up for the classes and every class you took, you got a water bottle. That sounds like they were kind of cutting back on that because, if you got 4 classes, that's 4 water bottles.
For sure.
Not everyone needs 4 water bottles.
Right. I believe that was one of the things people were saying last year. They got up to 8 water bottles or 4 water bottles, however many classes they got to take. So this year you got 1 water bottle upon check-in, and you got 1 side bag. They also gave you a enamel pin, like punch card. You could go collect at all 4 of the Lululemon stores located at 1 at Hudson Yards, 1 in Soho, 1 in Flatiron, and 1 on 5th Avenue. So there was a pin enamel pin that coordinated with each of those locations. They also gave you an enamel pin if you did the Sunset Run or the Run with Adrian on Sunday morning. They gave you an enamel pin at the party. They gave you an enamel pin for your first class. They gave you an enamel pin at they had a recovery area. You received an enamel pin, so you could go collect all these little enamel pins that you could pin on your crossbody.
Nice.
But there were not, I believe in previous years, the previous year you got a swag bag at the meet and greets. You got a swag bag at the run.
No, it was 1 for each of those. If you signed up for multiple, you got multiple.
Yes. But in your swag and your side body bag, you received 2 shiny tokens that you could put into the claw machine to receive a prize. And then the
claw machine was not there years before. So, and where was that set up?
in the apparel area, and there were
Okay.
prizes in there. Like there was Aura Rings, gift cards, keychains, side body bags, running belts, socks, and so you got two. And then there were other ways to win more coins, such as answering questions during the meet and greets and things like that.
Okay.
They had a photo booth where you could do GIFs and get a printout photo. One of the runs was rained out, but they came up and did a cardio session with Alex K, Rebecca, and Adrian, which was super fun. And
Now, that was the outdoor run, not an indoor run, where there wasn't
yeah,
another leak in the studio or anything.
yes. And then the sunset run with Hannah, Mariana showed up, and Benny,
Nice.
which was super fun. And they, instead of them, like all of them running together, they ran with each group. They came back and ran with all the paces, and
Mhm.
they did pictures with all the groups, and they had bubbles when we came through the tunnel, when we finished the 5K. And so they
Nice.
were really nice about making sure we all felt welcome, and all the paces had experiences with all the instructors.
Nice. And then the classes themselves were, once you were in the class, mostly the same as a normal class, other than an extra plug or two about Lululemon and them being sure to wear their Lululemon apparel. Is that the
Yes,
same
they
this
would be
year?
like, at Lululemon.
Right.
But the classes with the instructors that were Lululemon ambassadors, they of course had the Lululemon apparel on it. There was a lot more members that had never been to the
Right.
studio that
Because these
weekend.
classes were not listed on the public website, you had to have the special link from Lululemon to even be able to try to
Yep.
sign up. So that
Yes.
created a different group who might have been there otherwise.
The class limit was the same,
Yep.
so it was still 2 per day, 4 for the weekend. So that
Now,
was the same.
one thing that seemed different this year, there's been kind of that kickoff party in years past, but in the previous years it was at Peloton Studios, but this
Yes.
year was actually at the Lululemon store over on, I believe it was Fifth Avenue.
Fifth.
How is it being there?
It was, from what I understand, was previously you got a gift when you walked in there. This time it was free with a $100 purchase.
Okay.
There was a question and answer session hosted by Cody, which was funny.
Mhm.
Of course, it's funny. And then they played a game, and then the instructors left, and then there was a DJ, and you could try on clothes. And there were 2 drinks you got with your bracelet when you walked in, and then
Okay.
there were some appetizers.
Nice.
So there was 3 floors to mingle on. So I believe there was more space than in the lobby of Peloton. So
Right.
it was more space for more people.
Nice. Well, at this point, we don't know when the fourth Lululemon weekend will be, if it happens. Last year, I believe it was in September or October. So we will be sure to share any updates and make a post if and when that opens, and be sure to share details about that.
It is
Yeah.
free to be a Lululemon Essential member. You just need to
Correct.
go to their website and sign up to be one.
It's basically signing up for their mailing list. And the one
Yeah.
thing I would recommend if you're doing that, make sure to use the same email address that your Peloton account is tied to, because there
Yes.
does seem to be a higher chance of you getting the invites if you're using the
Right.
same address on both.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Well, to wrap things up this week, we wanted to wish a happy birthday to Andy Spear, Dennis Morden, and Katie Wong, who all had birthdays this week. So happy
Yes.
birthday to
Happy
all of them.
birthday.
And then we will turn to instructors in the news. And our first story this week is that Aditi Shah taught a free class in Times Square. This was part of the Solstice in Times Square event. And Peloton has been involved in this in the past 2
It
or
looks
3
so
years,
fun.
I think. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's a stage set up in Times Square, and several different yoga
I
instructors
missed it.
come and teach classes. And this year, Aditi Shah was the lead instructor, but it was not just Aditi. She had Ash Pryor, Adrian Williams, Nico Serrani, Anna Greenberg, Mariana Fernandez, and Benny Adami all came out
I know,
and,
it's so
were kind of
fun.
in the crowd and helping teach that with her. So that was a big event just down
It's
the
so
street from the
cool.
studios that the instructors were at.
I know, and I missed it.
Next
Of
time,
course.
next year.
Of course. Well, they also, for Pride Month, they had a listening party at Peloton headquarters, and Frankie Grande attended a playback session during Pride Month. His album was set to be released the next evening at midnight. So Maddie hosted a chat and gave all the employees a preview of his album that was set to be released. And he shared the stories behind the songs of how his journey as a Peloton member and as a gay man affected his artistic and personal growth. So that
Nice.
sounds like a really cool event to have
Yeah,
during Pride Month.
definitely. And then Olivia Amato was a guest on the Cheers podcast with Avery Woods. This is about a 45-minute interview, but Olivia talks about how she had left Wall Street, became a mental health advocate, and then they kind of talk about how they, enjoy office pranks, how Olivia has been working to try to get rescue dogs adopted,
Yes.
and more on that. So you can find that on the Cheers podcast with Avery Woods, and that's Olivia Amato this week.
And Christine had posted recently on her Instagram a video of her jumping on a box, and she's been advocating very much so for menopause health and pelvic floor health. And so she has recently been on a podcast regarding pelvic floor health. And so you can find more of that on her Instagram page.
Nice. And then for our next to last story this week, this past weekend, as part of Juneteenth celebration, Peloton teamed up with Girl Trek, and they had a walking event. This was a free event, and Peloton has done these events with Girl Trek in the past, but this one was themed around Juneteenth, and there's a video over on the Peloton social media to kind of see a recap of that event. Hannah Frankson was there and kind of leading the walk, so that was an event that took place
That was
this past
cool.
week.
And lastly, and because I was there, Allie Love for National Hydration Day was giving away free water bottles in front of Peloton Studios. So I grabbed one, and they were really cool. They were her Contigo water bottles. She also gave away one to each of the members that were in her class on Monday. They were the flip top ones. So I grabbed one of these outside of Peloton Studios. She was there from 8 to 1. She had a cute little cart. She also had 50 signed ones that were special prizes. If you took her card and you scanned it, you might have won one of the signed ones. And this was for National Hydration Day. She came outside and she also took some photo ops. So these are
Nice.
kind of cool because, like, if you take the straw out, water doesn't come out. So these are
Nice.
really nice water bottles. So you can get them on Amazon.
And
They
as
were to
part of
celebrate the purple color.
Yep, and that was kind of new this week, is that they
Yeah.
are available now on Amazon, and then for a limited time, I believe they're also on the Peloton apparel store.
Yes, they
I
were
believe
in
till the
studio.
end of the month, I believe.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
Well, that wraps up the instructors in the news, so let's jump right into class picks of the week, and I will get us started. Our first pick was Jess Sims in the 30-minute Luther Vandross run. That was from the 19th, and this came to us from Tom SQB, who said this was a very touching class from Jess. We then have Ash Pryor in our 30-minute Juneteenth row from the 19th. This came from Lauren J. 17th, who said this was another great row from Ash. And then we have Alex Toussaint in Tunde's 30-minute The Cookout 2-for-1 ride from the
That was a good
19th.
one.
Came from UF Rider 52, who said Tunde and Alex are always great together, and this was no exception. I will be repeating this.
For sure. I have Kiara's 30-minute yoga flow from June 20th at 7:30 a.m. from AMHR3. I love her beginner flows, and this was another excellent addition. And Chelsea Jackson Roberts and Shayla Stonechild, I agree. The 20-minute slow flow reclaim from June 20th. Love this little mini series from Chelsea and Shayla. Take all three. Yogi, Heather, 2. I agree. We have Chelsea's 30-minute rock ride in English.
Sorry, Charlotte Wiedenbach.
Oh, Charlotte. What? I said Chelsea. I don't know who. I do know Chelsea, but it was Charlotte. Okay. It was Charlotte. 30-minute rock ride by Rock Spin M. Another great English ride from Charlotte. Hope she keeps doing more.
Yep, and then we have Brad Lopez and his 30-minute full body strength from the 21st. This came from Julie MJ, who said his first class back after a break. Glad to have him back. We have Matt Wolpers and his 30-minute rock run from the 21st. This came from All Biz Liz, who said absolutely loved the playlist and nothing like a 7% hill.
Well, All
We
Biz
then
Liz
have-
likes the 7% hill.
There are a couple people
Yeah.
out there who enjoy a good hill in their workout.
That's right, she does.
And then we have Leanne Hainsby Aldis and her 20-minute low impact ride from the 22nd. This came from Jennifer Carroll 22, who said this was a great stack between this and her 80s class right after. Great studio energy.
And then we have Jen Sherman, the 30-minute My Mixtape from June 22nd from Cat HQ7G. Always love these playlists from Jen during mixtape classes. And then we have Mariana Fernandez, 30-minute Slow Flow from June 22nd from AMA Jar 3. Solid class with a great playlist. And then I agree with this one. I took this one the other night, knocked me out. Dennis Morton's 10-minute Sleep Meditation, June 22nd from AMA Jar 3. Love that Dennis is doing these now. I mean, amen.
Yeah. And then we got Joslyn Thompson Rule and her 10-minute Britney Spears Core Strength from Jennifer Carroll 22, and this was on June 23rd. She said this was so good, I've repeated it already.
I'm going to have to take that one.
There you go. You got one for your stack now. Then we got Susie Chan and her 15-minute Intro to Walking Pace Targets class, and this was one of the classes we talked about in the Pace Target story from June 23rd. This comes from Chris Run 75, who said, glad to have Pace Targets on Walk 2, and this is a good way to test your zones out. Then we have Jess King and her 45-minute Sweat Steady Low Impact Ride from June 23rd. This came from Just Dance Lisa, who said just an overall great class, plus Benny was there riding in the studio.
Yes. All right, and then we have Cody Rigsby, Britney Spears ride. Like, that's a surprise from June 24. I mean, the list. Okay, I miss Fabio Dennis. Okay, don't we all? And Nursing Jill and SJM 40921, Mom of Cadix, and Picky Penguin. Vibes were immaculate. You forget how fun Brit's music is, and I enjoyed every second. And we have Bex Gentry, 30-minute endurance run from June 24th. From Lauren Robin Ian. She talked about her recent weekend an event with Jennifer Gardner and 67 Strong fundraiser. That would be interesting. Thank you, Lauren, for recommending that one. Okay, and then we have Alex K's 60-minute long run. Okay, I saw that one this morning. Okay, you're recommending it. I'm going to take it. I have a long run to do. From Frankie Smith in Texas. Thank you, Frankie. I will look into that one. Alex always keeps you entertained and love the addition of these long runs. I do too.
And that was from June 25th. And then also on the 25th, we have Rebecca Kennedy's 30-minute Summer Strut. This came to us from Spectacular and Will SK5, who said just good vibes and confidence in this outdoor audio class. And then we have John Hosking and Maddie Majacomo's 30-minute Hit After Hit, 2-for-1 run. This came from us from Garth KEZ, and this was on June 25th, who said, Maddie and John are great together, and I love the combo of Broadway and disco.
Oh, Broadway and disco.
Yeah, it'll be a good
That's
little,
a good mix.
Yeah. And then to wrap things up, we have Eric Yeager and Jeffrey McEachern's 45-minute 2-for-1 Britney Spears run. This was in German on the June 26th, and this came to us from Rider Runner 820 and Chris M. Giles, who said this was a great pairing for this 2-for-1. Always such great energy and a fun Britney playlist.
I think Britney's fun all the time.
Yeah, and there were only 2 or 3 in there, but like we said, there's a whole collection of 20 to 30 in there now if you need more. But yeah, so that wraps up the show for the week. Holly, thanks for joining us.
Well, always welcome.
Appreciate you sharing the news and giving us your experience from the Lululemon Members Weekend. So great to hear kind of firsthand from how that was.
Of course. I had a great time.
Good. Well, glad you enjoyed your weekend. And it is the 4th of July weekend here in the U.S. next weekend. It is a holiday, so there are some closures at Peloton Studios. Yeah. We are not 100% sure if we are going to have a show next week. We're going to kind of see how busy of a week it is. So if we don't have an episode drop next week, that is why, but we'll pick back up the next week. But there's also a chance we will do an episode. So
if something good happens, we could.
Yeah, you never know. So Sunday, don't be surprised if there's not a show. Don't be surprised if there is one. We'll just kind of play it by ear. But just wanted to give people a heads up on that. But from me here in Atlanta, thanks everyone for listening and tuning in. And we'll see everyone next time.
Me here from Boston, temporarily.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. And we'll see everyone on the leaderboard. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for watching Pelo Buddy TV, your source for everything Peloton, by the community, for the community. Work out with us using the Pelo Buddy TV leaderboard tag. And don't forget to find us on Facebook, Instagram, and X at Pelo Buddy. Don't forget that we have a podcast available. Just search for Pelo Buddy wherever you get your podcasts from. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode.